Browns. We're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, and our friend Mr. Sooner Mayfield has another voicemail for me.
I don't think Dave has to ask who this is because by now he and I kibitzing back and forth. By the way, Dave Bacon, that's a pretty cool name. We kibitz back and forth. And I just got to thinking about something. What did Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield show to future quarterbacks? Joe Burrow's knee last year was banged up, and he sat out the rest of the season, came back strong, went into the Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield played through extreme pain and injuries. And I'm not talking about just pain during the game. I'm talking about after the game and in between. I mean, when you have something torn and something broken in a movable part of your body, I can tell you from 3 back surgeries, it doesn't go away. So I'm thinking maybe the new quarterbacks or even the ones that's been there now will say, I'm hurt, and I'm hurt so bad, I'm gonna do a Joe Burrow. I'm going to set it out, and I'm going to wait until I get healed. If I get hurt and I'm hurt bad enough, I'm not going to mess up my future. So I'll sit down. Thank you very much. Bye.
And Ashley, I think there's some truth to that. Now, it's important to note, Joe Burrow tore his ACL and really couldn't play. But I wonder in retrospect if Baker Mayfield wishes he hadn't continued.
Let's get that part of it out of the way first, though, because I was thinking that, as we're listening to that, obviously a torn ACL is totally different for a quarterback compared to a torn labrum in your non-throwing shoulder, right? Like, one of those players had a choice potentially or had some input into the choice whether or not he was going to play versus the other player who his season was ended because he needed to have that surgery and it would have been physically impossible for him to play, right? But I've I think I've said it on this very show, been a proponent of, I think the narrative around Baker Mayfield would have been totally different had he gone and had that surgery on his torn labrum and then come back next year. Obviously, I think so many of the conversations remain about the same. You let Case Keenum start, they maybe win the same number of games, or if they win fewer games, it becomes, well, we didn't have our starting quarterback, so what do you expect us to do, right? It's like a built-in, you hate to use the word excuse, but that's what it becomes. You don't have all your personnel. So I do think there definitely is some truth to the fact that the narrative around Baker Mayfield and his career would have been totally different right now. And, ultimately we'll see what he looks like now when he comes back and he's recovered from that shoulder. But I do think it's important to note that when Baker Mayfield had that injury, when it got particularly bad, when that bone started to fracture, that's when he sat in that Thursday night game. So the Browns and their players, they are going to still make the decision based on, health of the player and whether or not a guy feels like he can go. But when they can't, they're going to sit. And Baker Mayfield did do that as well this year. And I think it's important to point that out as well. But it is also, it's a big what if question that is sort of unanswerable at this point. And whether Baker Mayfield would still be with the Browns, who knows? The narrative, though, I think would definitely 100% have been different around this season, and kind of especially the disappointed narrative that we heard over and over again towards the end.
Yeah, I would agree. And the one thing I would say is quarterback is a different position. A lot of other positions, you go out there and, you try to play through it. Don't do that with quarterback. You touch the ball every time, and you have 11 guys trying to find a way to bury you in the turf. So that's a little different. All right, let's change. Go ahead.
I was just going to say quarterback is totally different. When you think about especially offensive linemen, for example, right? That's one of those positions you're talking about. Often you talk to offensive linemen, they're basically all hurt, have some kind of nagging injury from probably week 3 onward. And it's so hard you can't really compare the quarterback to any other position in the game. It's hard to compare any NFL position to another position in the game, right? They're all just so different responsibilities, but the linemen, for example, are guys in the trenches who are always battling through something. And that is a different mentality than what you have to have when you are a franchise quarterback, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.